Hi guys, I am back and this is again your instructor, Ronilo H. Palingkad, your instructor in Lit 6. So our subject again is Contemporary, Popular, and Emergent Literature. This is going to be a recorded session since, as we can recall, our first session last week was cut off due to uncontrollable circumstances. And this time, we're going to start from scratch. We're going to start from the very beginning. Alright, so let me just go ahead and proceed to our preparatory activities, which we uh, performed last week. I think everyone was given a chance to introduce himself or herself, and then after which I think I gave feedback. Then after the last student shared er, his or her turn, I did also introduce myself. And then as I can remember, we also had a quick look of the course syllabus where I stressed about the learning outcomes that are common to BE Ed and BS Ed majors. You also learned that there are specific learning outcomes for Bachelor of Secondary Education major in English. Also, you were oriented about the topics. I mean, you were reminded to also review the topics and methods as well as the assessment tools which can be found on the course syllabus which I uploaded on Google Classroom. And also lastly, you learn about the course evaluation that is required in this subject as well as the requirements and grading system. Alright, as mentioned last week, this is going to be our session slash lesson objectives today. At the end of the session, the students are expected to define the meaning of contemporary, popular, and emergent literature. Second, students are also expected to identify the various genre in popular literature classification, including the common literary devices used in various literary texts or forms. Third, students are also expected to learn the related and brief history pertinent to contemporary, popular, and emergent lit by means of a self-learning material which will be uploaded in Google Classroom. And finally, students are expected to write or to respond to the required learning insight after the session. So let me just proceed and tackle on the key terminologies that we will be using all throughout the course. Of course, let's not forget to review about literature. We all know that literature refers to any work of fiction, to any work of nonfiction, manuscripts, poetry, including compilations of data in other subject matter, even including dissertations and theses. But in this context, literature refers to a broad collection of books. Uh, it refers to a broad collection of works, can be written or oral work, which have artistic merit. So that's what literature means in this context. Alright, another word that needs to be reviewed here is the word contemporary. We all know that this word is, familiar. I'm assuming that everyone knows this word, or at least everyone is familiar what contemporary means. Of course, we all know, again, I'm expecting, we all know that contemporary is similar to the word current or modern, right? And to use this word in context, in this sentence, for example, while young people tend to listen to contemporary music, the older generation tends to prefer to listen to music in the 1970s. Again, while young people tend to listen to contemporary music, the older generation tends to listen to music in the 1970s. So in that example, in that sentence, contemporary music refers to current music or modern music, which the our young which the young generation prefers. So next, the word popular. Popular is also a very simple word. I'm assuming as well that everyone knows this. Um, who doesn't know the word popular, right? So when we think of something popular, we can say that that certain thing or that certain person or entity is highly admired. When we think of uh, items that are for sale, we can say that that certain item is popular when that is marketable or saleable. Example of this one is the Bible. We all know that the Bible is a very popular book. And according to Guinness World Records, in as of 1995, the Bible is the best selling book of all time. So that makes the Bible itself very popular, right? Next, the word, all right, here there's a URL which I provide here um, for everyone to learn more about the famous books that are literature related. You just go to this website here or this shortened URL. You just go to short URL dot at slash go capital X 34. So that is the shortened URL. And discover for yourself what are the popular books these times, these times that are, you know, essential for us to learn as literature learners. Again, to access more famous books, you may go to this URL here. That is short URL dot at forward slash go capital X 34. Emergent. When we think of emergent, that means coming into view or developing. And to use this word in context for us to better understand what this word means, I think everyone knows about Morissette, right? And Morissette these times is a popular singer, right? And to put this word in context, if we're going to use emergent in a sentence, uh, and we're going to relate this word or connect this word to Morissette, we can say like Morissette is an emergent singer, maybe not famous yet, but her talent points to a future in show business. So I think that is a clear example uh, of using that word in a sense. So, summing all the information mentioned or cited in this slide, we all know that our subject is Lit 6, which has a complete description that goes contemporary, popular, and emergent literature. In this particular subject, we are expected to thoroughly examine. Aside from that, we're also expected to record the features as well as write views and descriptions of the famous, I mean, of the popular and emergent literary text and their authors who stand out during the contemporary period. If you're asking when does that contemporary period uh, take place, that started after the Second World War, that was in the 1940s. Again, do not forget, the contemporary period uh, or the contemporary era started after the Second World War. That's in the 1940s to be exact. Alright, so in this part of the session, we will learn the different literary genres. As you can see here in the screen, you will learn the different genres that are common in contemporary, popular, and emergent literature. And also in here, I'll be introducing to you guys, I'll be presenting the famous authors and their famous masterpieces that survived during the said era. And also, let us not forget here, I believe it's important for me to do this, that in this session, you guys or everyone will be required to have individual reporting. So today, I'll be assigning to you your specific literary text for individual reporting. Of course, the literary text and the author are already given here. You just need to perform three main tasks in this activity. First, you just need to research the year that your assigned literary text is or was published, right? Then second, you just need to list down all the main characters of the text again that is assigned to you, and you are to write a brief description to each one. And then last, third task is you will be required to write a brief summary of, a brief summary about the text, again, that is being assigned to you. I hope that is clear to everyone. First task is research the year of publication, right? I think this one is simple for you to do here. And second task is, again, you list down all the main characters of the text, and then you have to put there, or you have to write a brief description uh, to each one of them. And last is you will write a brief summary about the literary text assigned. All right, I think we can proceed now to the literary genres, which I cited or mentioned on the outset. So let me just go ahead and start presenting this slide for everyone. Alright, so the first genre here is action and adventure. It's simple for us to figure out or to identify that is a literary text or a movie is under this category when we can see dangerous activities, when we can see that the main characters or the other primary characters of the story or of the movie are, you know, are engaging in different struggles all throughout, right? An example of this one is Harry Potter by J.K. Rowling, which will be reported by Henry Diaz. And also next is Life of Pi by Jan Mantel, which will be presented to us soon by Lydian Galvez. Alright, so the next genre here, as you can see on your screen right now, are the classics. So we can tell that a literary piece or a literary text or a movie is under this classification when it has merit, or when it has lasting recognition, or when it touches the readers, and the readers or the viewers can make connections, and that the literary text itself, including the author, influences the readers or influences the viewers. Another characteristic of a classic is it has high quality characters, it has high quality story and writing and style. So please let us not forget, let us always remember that a classic has all these four characteristics. First one is a classic stands the test of time. That's first. Second, a classic has universal appeal. And third, a classic literary piece makes connections. Right? I think I mentioned that one already. And last is a classic is always relevant to multiple generations. An example of a classic literary piece or a text is this one, Little Women by Louisa May Alcott, which will be reported to us by Mary Grace Justinian. Alright, so moving forward here is we have the comic or graphic novels. So graphic novels are book-length comics. Sometimes they tell a single continuous narrative from first page to last, and sometimes they are collections of shorter stories or individual comic strips. So one feature of a comic or a graphic novel is that they are sequential visual art, usually with a text, so they're often told in series of rectangular panels. So example of this one is The Walking Dead Compendium 1 by Robert Kirkman. This is to be presented to us by uh, Carmel Justinian. The next literary classification here is the detective slash mystery. Well, it's easy for us guys to figure out that a movie or a literary text falls under this category when we can see scenes of murder or scenes of disappearance that will lead us viewers and readers to becoming a detective, trying to figure out the who, trying to figure out the what, the when, and the how of a particular crime. An example of this genre here, as you can see, And When There Were None by Agatha Christie, which will be presented to us soon by Leslie Landig. Moving forward is fantasy. So fantasy is a genre of speculative fiction set in a fictional universe. It is often inspired by real world. It is also inspired by myth and folklore. Its roots are in oral tradition, so do not forget. Fantasy is rooted from oral tradition, which then became fantasy literature and drama. In the 20th century, it has expanded further into various media, including film, television, graphic novels, manga. I think you're familiar with manga, and animated movies and video games. So that's fantasy. An example of this one is The Water Dancer by Ta-Nehisi Coates, which will be reported to us by Rachel Suelo. Next, moving forward, we have here historical fiction. So this literary genre has a plot that takes place in a setting located in the past. So although the term is commonly used as a synonym for historical novel, it can also be applied to other types of narrative, including theater, opera, cinema, and TV, as well as video games and graphic novels. An example of this is Memoirs of a Geisha by Arthur, which will be presented or reported to us by Jamaica Sukurin. Next genre or literary classification here is the horror. So in literature, horror is a genre of fiction whose purpose is to create feelings of fear. It's simple for us to figure out this genre. It creates feelings of fear, dread, repulsion, and terror in the audience. So, in other words, it develops an atmosphere of horror. So, horror itself is a word. This is taken from an old French word, which is horror. It is spelled like ORROR, which means to shudder or to bristle. Again, the word horror, this one, is taken from the old French word, which is horror, ORROR, which means to shudder or to bristle. An example of this is The Bird Box by Josh Mailerman, which is to be presented to us by Gerlin Pollat. Alright, moving on, we have here literary fiction. So this is just another genre. It's simply fiction that targets a specific group of readers who like what literary novels have to offer. So not least, this emphasis on character over plot. So do not forget, this emphasizes or this focuses more on character over the plot. So that's not to say that genre novelists don't care about characterization. An example of this one is Olive, again by Elizabeth Strout, which is to be reported by Joseph Canoy. Okay, so moving on to the next slide or next literary genre, we have romance. So romance comes from the Anglo-Norman uh, Old French word romance. So romance, it came from the old uh, Anglo-Norman or Old French word romance, spelled like Romanz. So which means a story of chivalry and love. So it's it's this genre is very common to us. This is not new. It portrays a story of love, or it portrays a story of chivalry. So the word romance here, this one, the word romance, refers to romantic love. As far as literature is concerned, the term has an entirely different concept. So it means romantic stories with chivalrous feats and of heroes and knights. So romance describe chivalry and courtly love, comprising stories and legends of duty, courage, boldness, battles, and even rescues. So an example of this genre here, we have Gun, Gone with the Wind by Margaret Mitchell, which is to be presented to us by Mary Chris Arosa. So moving forward here is science fiction. This genre is often this is often um, shortened to sci-fi. Sci-fi again. Science fiction is sometimes shortened instead of saying science fiction. The complete phrase or term. This is usually shortened to sci-fi or SF. This is a genre of speculative fiction that typically deals with imaginative and futuristic concepts such as advanced science and technology, space exploration, time travel, and so on. Example of this one is the Hunger Games trilogy by Suzanne Collins, to be reported by Raphael Villamor, if I'm not mistaken. This is to be reported by Raphael. Alright, so next to science fiction is this one, suspense thriller. In this genre of literature, portrays dark and engrossing and suspenseful plot-driven stories. An example of this is The Guardians by John Grisham. Again, The Guardians by John Grisham, to be reported or to be presented by Malo Katigbe. Okay, so moving forward, next genre here is we have biographies and autobiographies. So we all know that a biography is a detailed non-fiction narrative of a person's life. So it's written by somebody else. While an autobiography is a non-fiction narrative of a person's life, which is written by that person. So in other words, the author is writing about his own or about her own life. So that's the difference between biography and autobiography. Again, biography is a narrative of a person's life which is written by another person, while these autobiographies are also narratives that accounts a person's life written by that person himself or herself. An example of this, a famous text here, I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings by Maya Angelou, which is to be reported by Sherry Ann Lagunoy. Next, we have poetry. We all know that poetry is a major literary genre. All types of poetry share specific characteristics. In fact, poetry is a form of text that follows a meter and rhythm with each line and syllable. So it is further subdivided. This is just a review. Poetry is subdivided into different genres, such as an epic poem, a narrative poem, romantic, dramatic, and lyric. So an example text here. This is The Sun and Her Flowers by Rup Kaur, to be presented or to be reported by Ella Banak. Alright, moving forward, we have romance comedy. So this genre is also called rom-com. So rom is a is, shortened term for romance, in com for comedy. Again, romance comedy is often used, or I mean, is often called rom-com. This is a subgenre of comedy and slice of life fiction, focusing on light-hearted, humorous plot lines centered on romantic ideas such as how true love is able to surmount most obstacles. So, an example of this is Mr. Sunshine. This one is a Korean masterpiece. This is to be researched and to be presented to us by Angeline Virador. And last, we have drama. Drama within a film or TV and radio is a genre or a narrative fiction intended to be more serious than humorous in tone. So focusing on in-depth development of realistic characters who must deal with realistic emotional struggles. Again, one of its feature here is this is intended, again, drama is intended to be more serious than humorous. So it focuses on in-depth development of realistic characters who must deal with realistic emotional struggles. So an example of this here is The Goblin. Again, this one is a Korean romance comedy, which is to be researched and to be presented to us by Flora May Ganaderos. So I think that's last. In here, we tackled 15 literary genres, and I think everyone was given a specific literary text to report here. If in case your name, if a student's name is not mentioned here, please send me a PM and let me know in advance so I can set another, I can think of another literary text for you to report. Alright, so before I end this video lesson, first things first, I would like to extend my heartfelt thanks. Thank you very much, everyone, for spending your time watching my video. And let me go ahead and show to you this slide as a sort of review or recapitulation. I believe that the first objective here, which is to define the meaning of contemporary, popular, and emergent lit, is realized. I mentioned or I tackled these key points here. I mentioned or I explained or I elaborated what literature is all about. So with contemporary and popular and other terms or essential terms in this course. And also the second objective here, identify the various genre in popular lit classification was also tackled. Those, as you may notice, there are phrases or objectives that are highlighted in blue. This is going to be our enrichment activities. So I want you guys to always open your group chat so for you to be able to learn updates regarding these uh, enrichment activities right here. Everything here that are highlighted in blue. So I think that's all. Thank you again. Thank you so much, everyone, for spending time with me today, and you all have a great day.